Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing? Good. Okay. So, welcome to Anthropology first class. Okay. So, today we will, try to get ourselves oriented once again, and then we will start with our first chapter. Okay. So, today being the first class, let's try to address some common questions that all of you will have, or it might arise later on. So, we'll address those things, we'll see how the classes will progress and what all is expected from you, all those things I will tell you. Okay, so then I will start with the first chapter. Okay, relax and listen to all of that, whatever or whenever it is required to be, whatever you have to write, I will tell you, I will stop, I will dictate, so that time you can write down. Okay, right. So, some of the common questions that most of you will be having or will arise later on. Okay, so first one is how many classes, right? So, from the beginning we want to finish it as quickly as possible. So, generally I take about 100 class. So, generally I take about 100 classes. Okay, so 2.5 hours each class. I require about 100 classes, 95 or 105, somewhere in that range. All right, that will be spread across over 4 to 5 months. All right, classes will be held on weekdays. So, Saturday and Sunday, it will help us to re-energize ourselves every week. Okay, we can revise whatever we have studied the whole week. Okay, it is very important also. Okay, so that we can make sure that as we complete the classes, you at least read it once. Okay, I won't say that at the end of the class you will become experts, but at least if you do this consistently every week, 5 days of class and Saturday and Sunday, I expect you to read it once at least, underline the keywords, concepts, etc. Okay, and then again Monday you will again start the class. So, therefore, Saturday and Sunday is very crucial, and on Saturday and Sunday I expect you to write few answers and other things. Okay, so this if you do consistently for 4 to 5 weeks, you don't have to worry about anthropology. You can focus outside, I mean after the class you can focus on GS and other things. All right, so 2.5 hours of class, and every day probably about 1 hour. Okay, so 2.5 hours plus about 1 hour every day. That means half an hour before the class you can revise and half an hour after the class. This is minimum that I would expect. And on a weekend you can use that 3 hours or 4 hours to revise everything. Okay, so this should be your plan. 5 days you give about 3.5 hours, and on the weekends you can give about 3 hours. That's all. That is what I expect you to do throughout this 100 class or 4 to 5 months when you are doing anthropology. Is that okay? So that you can balance even your general studies. Most of you will be attending your general studies also. So it becomes very hectic, right? I understand, because if in the beginning you feel like you can do everything or you want to do everything, that Josh is there. Okay, but this exercise has to be continued for almost 2 years. Whatever, even if you're starting now, it will take 2 years, if everything goes well, for you to see your name in the final list. Is that okay? Whichever God or whichever universe, whichever you pray for, it will take minimum 2 years. So 2 years you have to be in that same energy, means it's very difficult. So you have to have strategies where you will be able to remain that consistent throughout 2 years. So you have to somewhere manage it. So therefore, I know the limitations. You will realize it very soon when you are attending GS, anthropology, everything. It becomes too hectic, right? So therefore, this is something which is sustainable. Okay, for 2 to 3 years, this is something which you can do. So make sure you start from now only. Giving like sleepless night, I will not sleep, I will sleep only 3 hours, I will not eat that, this, you can't sustain it for long. Is that okay? So GS around 8 hours you will have, right? In that, if I am able, I mean asking you so much also is quite challenging. Okay, is that okay? But you have to at least read half an hour to 1 hour every day. because otherwise every class will become a new class and you will be all over the place. So you will have to have continuity, half an hour before the class, half an hour after the class. What has been done in the class? Is it okay? Are you getting that continuity? Are you linking with what has happened before? That much I expect you to do. And weekends are very crucial so that you, try to read and revise whatever has been done. Yes. So this is what you have to do. Then till when recorded classes will be available? See, throughout the, obviously the course and few months after also. So till I think next year, mains or something like that, I don't know. That depends on the management, about 3-4 months after the class. After the conclusion of the class, about 3 to 4 months, the recordings will be available. Okay, so you don't have to worry about it in case there are certain topics which you have missed, or there are some topics which you need clarity. I would recommend you to watch the recordings once again. 2-3 times when you watch it, you will be clear or with the concepts, etc. It is okay. Not everybody or not every topic will be understood in the first sitting itself. Maybe you have to watch it once or twice. So therefore, in that 3-4 months after the class, when you are revising, this concept I didn't understand, let me revise it once again or watch it once again, all that you can do. So recording classes will be available 3 to 4 months after the end of the class. And then some students will be joining, those who are watching this video, some students might have joined late. Not to worry, you start from day 1 itself. You create your own schedule from day 1 itself, you can continue. Or we are going to cover anthropology in 5 parts. This is even for others. Okay, we are going to cover anthropology in 5 parts. And all these 5 parts are separate concepts. Is that okay? Let's say, so I will be doing first part, then second, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, let's say you missed the first part and you are joining the class in the second part. You can finish all these parts and then you can watch the first part. Is that understood? So that's how we are going to do. So the first part will be socio-cultural anthropology, Indian anthropology, tribal, evolution, and biological. So all the 5 parts will be done one after the other. In case if you missed any of these parts, let's say some of them are studying also. Let's say they have an exam, okay, their graduation exam or whatever, right? So 1 month or 2 months they can't attend. So let's say you missed the third part. Finish the fourth, fifth, first and second, and then you can attend the fourth part. That also can be done. Is that okay? So that's how we are going to do in 5 parts. So you can follow your own schedule. Okay. Then how many hours should I dedicate? I already told you 3.5 hours every day, right? Class plus about an hour. Okay. It's not going to be that difficult. You'll realize, anthropology is a very easy subject. So you don't have to worry too much about reading from multiple sources, making your own notes, etc. All that we do in the class, okay, the dictated notes that I'm going to give you, all that you have to do is spend about half an hour to read it. It is very much possible, but you have to do it, you have to be consistent. That's up to you. Okay. Next, should I read textbooks? Okay, to begin with, or otherwise you don't have to. See, because we have limited time. Your GS, your anthropology, okay, you have limited time. Time is the most valuable resource that you have. Is that okay? If I tell you to read that textbook XYZ, you will have to spend another 4 hours doing that. Is that okay? The main objective of you attending these classes is that you can skip all of that. Okay, by reading a textbook, the clarity that you will get or the content that you get will be given to you in the class itself. Correct? You have to read a textbook to get clarity of a concept or to get some new content, value addition, etc. Both I will be doing in the class. I am very confident of that. Okay, concepts also you will understand. Okay, and any important fact that will help you clear the exam, that also I will give you. So there is no use as such to read some extra textbook as of now. Is that okay? See, in anthropology, out of 250, if I take one paper out of 250, if you attend my class and simply read the notes, etc., easily you can get around 120 in your exam, guaranteed. Okay, you don't have to do anything more. Next, if you practice answer writing, if you follow the strategies that I tell you, and if you start interlinking topics, etc., recycle and reuse case studies and points, arguments, etc., which I have given, you will get another 15 to 20 marks. So 135 to 140 you can get without studying any other textbooks. Minimum I am saying, not saying maximum, minimum. Okay, 120 with just the notes and basic writing, interlinking topics and trying to make it much more effective, the presentation, answer writing part, you'll get extra that. So 135, 140 you can easily get. Okay, the challenging part is that you have to sit and revise and revise and revise by hearting, which is a little boring. Reading new, textbook, etc., sometimes seems attractive, right? After 1 year, you want something fresh. So you take a new textbook, you read it, you feel like you're doing something, but from the exam point of view, it may not always work. So what I would suggest is keep your textbooks limited, as minimal as possible. I will tell you some reference books, but again, it is something which you don't need at this point of time, is what I would. And most of you, I know in the beginning you will have a lot of josh. You want to read and complete a lot of topics in the beginning itself. It's okay, wait it out. Okay, one by one when we do it, you will cover those topics. Focus on GS also, so that simultaneously you can cover these topics. Okay, so textbook as such you don't need. Even in the beginning, you don't need it. See, today's class only you will realize. We go from the basics, okay, make it very simple as possible. You don't need any other textbook, okay. Anyways, I will suggest reference books. You can buy it, you can keep it, refer it whenever you need it, but if you have time only. Then, will I get class presentation? No, you will not get. I expect you to actively write down those things in the class. So whatever I show in the presentation, later I will dictate it. Is that okay? So presentation is only for having an interaction with the students. Okay, I want you to make notes. At the end of the anthropology class, you should have a solid note, complete syllabus should be there with you, okay, which you will be revising some 50 times. Okay, that is what is expected out of you. Sit and by heart or revise or something like that. Concepts are very easy to understand in anthropology. It's a very, very easy subject, very simple subject, easy concepts, interesting concepts. Is that okay? But the challenging part is, like any other subject, there are a lot of facts that you have to remember. Names are there, books are there, keywords are there, terms that you have to write. Okay, those things you will have to sit and by heart or try and remember, memorize, etc. How will it come? Okay, it will come out of revision, by hearting, revision. It is important. I understand, like, it's not like GS where you can creatively write everything. Anthropology, you can write, creatively, but at the same time, there are certain things that are expected out of you. Certain names that is expected out of you. There are certain keywords that is expected out of you. You have to mention that in your answer. How will you remember that? Repeatedly revise as many times as possible. Okay, like in school days, multiplication tables. We used to, every first standard and second standard, all that you did was every day morning multiplication tables. Okay, is there any concept behind it? I mean, there is concept, like 3 twos are means 3 plus 3, but you don't, answer it based on that concept. When 3 twos are means, automatically it will come what? 6. How does it come? In the middle of the night, someone wakes you up and asks you also, most of you will be able to answer. Why? Because rote learning, repeatedly by hearting this, repeatedly reading it, same thing. I expect you to repeatedly read the notes so that as soon as a question is asked, you will be able to write it without any difficulty. Is that understood? Anthropology, another advantage is many questions repeat. Is that okay? Or concepts repeat. If you see last year, paper 1, all the questions were either asked previously or similar was asked, but they have changed the wordings of the question, but the content remains the same. Is that understood? So if it is there in the notes, automatically if you are able to Xerox it on the answer sheet, it is, you get the maximum marks. Do you understand? So you should know what anthropology gives you, that you should, you should adapt to that. Direct questions, repeated questions. So answers also should be prepared. As soon as you see a question, you should be able to write the answer. And how do you do that? If you repeatedly read the same thing again and again and again, rather than reading new things, read the same thing again and again. Is that okay? So that is what I expect you to do. So these are some of the common questions. Okay. Right. So what is expected out of you at the end of anthropology? Okay. Now, one, comprehensive notes. See, whatever I do in the class, the notes that I give, etc., is from multiple sources. Whatever standard books you would have been suggested by anybody or toppers or something like that, all those textbooks will be read by me and I will give you notes. Is that okay? So at the end, for every topic from the syllabus, you should have notes. Okay, and I told you in the orientation class, right? You have maximum 20 marker questions, right? So 20 marker means you need about 250 words. So you should be prepared for this. Okay, so any topic in the syllabus, you should have at least 250 words. That's what we will be doing. So comprehensive notes will be there. If you miss one or two classes, make sure you come back and ask your friend and make the notes and finish it off then and there itself. Okay, so once you are doing these notes, I will tell you about this micro notes over a period of time also. What I expect you to do is, so the notes, let's say this 250 words should be converted to about 20 words. Whatever I give you, 250 words, should be then converted into 20 words of revision notes. This you are supposed to do. Is that okay? See, for example, over here, okay, comprehensive notes, only 2 words are there, but I spoke almost for 3 minutes. Okay, if I write it down, I'll write 1 page out of it. Is that understood? So that 1 page can be converted into 2 words. Same way, your notes also should be converted into revision notes minimum. Okay, so 250 words should be converted into 20 words. So what does this revision notes contain? Your notes will contain concepts, stories, background, context, explanation. Okay, so which is good for reading and understanding. But what you need to actually remember is certain keywords. Is that okay? Certain facts and data, like names of anthropologists, okay, or some factual data of population, that, this, etc. Okay, case studies. Okay, headings, or trigger words. Okay, which will help you to write 2-3 pages from that concept. I'll repeat again. Okay, so these keywords, trigger words, facts, data, heading and case study. Please write down this. Micro notes, just somewhere in the rough sheet. Your micro notes, okay, your revision notes should contain these things, okay, keywords, which should be there in your answer, okay. Trigger words, which will trigger you to think and write 1 page or 1 paragraph. See, this is a trigger word for me. Comprehensive notes, okay. It triggered my brain to talk about, notes making and other things. Then facts and data. Okay. Then headings. Then case study. Very, very important. See, these are strategies which will help you to write beautiful answers in your mains, even with GS also. Is that okay? So this is what you are supposed to. So for example, your socio-cultural anthropology will be 200 pages, notes, what I dictate in the class. That 200 pages should be converted to 20 page. Which is easier to revise? Obviously 20 page. 200 pages means you require 3 days to read only. But this 20 page you can revise in 3 to 4 hours, which is very crucial just before the exam, because you won't have time. Yes, so these will help you to write beautiful answers. Stories you will never forget, concepts you will never forget in anthropology because it's easy. But what will you forget? The facts, the data, the names, the keywords that should be there in your answer to get maximum marks, because the examiner also doesn't have time while evaluation. So they will also focus on, has he written these keywords? Has they written the headings? Have they written the important examples? Have they written the facts, names? That's all. And then they will move on. Concepts you will be able to write. The story you will be able to write. Okay. So as we progress, I will tell you those keywords, those headings, etc. And it varies from individual to individual. Okay, so you need something to help you, like say for example, your friend is sitting behind, imagine, in the exam hall, okay, and is helping you out, write this, write that. That is what you are supposed to write. Or something in your brain which is telling you, have you written this, have you written that? That keyword, that is that, trigger words. Or if I have to tell you otherwise, if UPSC allows you to take 20 pages to the exam, okay, allows you to take 20 pages to the exam. You can write anything in that 20 page. Okay, you have to take 20 pages. What will you do? Okay, micro xerox, all that is not allowed, let's assume that. Okay, so 20 pages may, what will you write? You will write something which you can't remember. Will you write stories? You will write what you can't remember. Yes, you will see this, then you will go on writing. That is your micro notes. That is your revision notes. It will contain those things which you can't remember but you should remember. Everybody, it is a fact, like, lot of actual information we can't remember. So these micro notes will help you just 2-3 days before the exam. You sit and by heart 3 days, write the exam, next day you forget, over. Concepts for your entire life you will not forget, trust me. The stories and other things that we discuss in anthropology you will never forget. But the facts you will not remember for a long time. Just the validity is 3 to 4 days. After that it will evaporate. So for that you should have ready-made micro notes just before the exam. So you have about 5 days between GS and anthropology. In this 5 days, this micro notes is what you are going to study. Between prelims and mains, whenever you are writing your prelims and whenever you are clearing your prelims and giving your mains, there will be about 3 to 4 months. There will be about 3 to 4 months. In that 3 to 4 months, you will read your notes as well as your micro notes simultaneously. But in that last 5 days, you don't have time to read your entire notes. Maybe you can read it once, it is of no use. You have to read it some 10 times. So that is where this micro notes will help. You can write also micro notes, or you can simply make micro notes in the notes itself. Okay, like highlighting, putting post-its, or just numbering the keywords and headings, or just, circling them, the keywords in the notes. That also is micro note. You don't have to do it separately. You can do it separately if you have time. If you don't have time, you can take a highlighter and just underline the key or highlight the key words or facts or circle the key facts or this one. Is that understood what I am saying? Very important it is. Okay, let's say like this is your notes. Okay, you just highlight 5-6 words in each page. To read the entire page, it might take 2-3 minutes, but to read the highlighted part, it might just take 10-15 seconds. So that also is your micro notes. It's all your approach. Whichever you want, you can do it. Because if you don't have time now, at least take a colorful highlighter or pen and highlight those key words. Is that okay? And I tell you, no, half an hour every day, this is what you do. You read it and just highlight the keywords and facts and other things. And on a weekend, you will quickly read through those things. Okay, so this is what I expect you to do in that half an hour and 3 hours on weekends. Then after, anthropology, when you have time, you can make a list of case studies, data, facts, schemes, policies relating to tribals, okay, and other communities, etc. So those list of facts, etc., you can also make at the end. Okay, this is up to you. Okay, it depends on what you want to remember or what you can't remember. Then some standard textbooks for reference, like tribal India and all, I will tell you later. Okay, those things you might have to, some standard material like reports, government reports, okay, tribal policies, all those things I will tell you, standard ones that which you might have to read. Okay, so this is what is expected out of you. Okay. Right, so some of the standard textbook, again, you don't have to buy everything. I'm just put this over here. You want, you can buy it. Okay. Otherwise, whenever required, I'll tell you. Is that okay? So these standard books I have also mentioned in the orientation. You can go through it, not a problem. Okay. Then what you should avoid. This also is very important. Okay, what you should not do. All right. So one is reading guidebooks. Okay, reading guidebooks. You might have seen some books in the market. Okay, if you go to bookstall, they will also suggest such books. Question, answer, question, answer. Okay, right now you don't read that. Okay, because your approach towards anthropology will become very narrowed, very parochial it will become, which is not very useful for the current trend of the exam. In the current trend, they are interlinking topics. Okay, they expect you to comprehensively understand the subject. So in that context, it doesn't help. So please don't read guidebooks. It may feel very, you might be very happy reading it because you will be, covering lot of topics. Okay, but it will not help you in the actual exam. And those who suggest also are the ones who have never written mains. They've been reading for 5 years and they're happy reading it. Okay, so don't go by that because now it's very challenging, competitive exam and you are expected to be better than the others. Is that okay? Then hoarding of materials and journals, textbooks, etc. Okay, don't do that. I know it is very attractive to buy new books and the smell of the new book or the smell of the new Xerox material, etc. might be attractive. Okay, but don't do that. Take it gradually. You should peak at the right time. Don't start with the peak and then deteriorate. It's okay to start gradually, increase and reach the peak. Okay, after when it is actually required before the exam. Then obsession with case studies. So before you started anthropology, you might have done research, and everywhere you might have heard saying that you have to write case study, that this, etc. I will be giving all those which is required and more also. So you don't have to go and keep searching for case studies, googling it up and reading other books, etc. and making extra, because what I give you itself is a lot. Okay, so don't get obsessed with case study. With limited case studies, know how to enhance your answers. All this I will tell you later if you are not understanding now. Is that okay? With limited number of facts and case studies, etc., how to write beautiful answers. Okay, then don't complicate your preparation. Is that okay? Keep it simple. Don't unnecessarily complicate by reading extra, okay, by doing research, going in depth to a particular topic. Going in depth to a particular topic. See, what do you need to do in the, what is your main objective? To clear this exam, to crack this exam. Even if you don't know certain things, but you appear to know a lot of things, it's more than enough to crack this exam. Is that okay? You have to appear that you are very knowledgeable. The world works like that only. Is that okay? So people will believe those who are able to show that they know a lot of things. Yes, like Drone Pratap example. right? MLAs, MPs, ministers, you know, big people also, they followed people who are trying to create that narrative. This is very important. Life may also, that is also important, but here also in your examination, UPSC may, I mean, the false assumption is that UPSC is a very difficult exam and therefore you need to be the best person. Nothing like that. Okay, UPSC is the, you know, in terms of subject, syllabus, it's the most easiest, you know, because you are studying what? School level or degree level content. Okay, you have other professional courses where you have to study so much of technical topics. Here, polity, economy, basic NCERT you are reading. So subject wise, it's not very difficult. Anybody can master it. Those who crack it are the ones who have the right strategy. Is that okay? Not the ones who are intelligent. Those who are intelligent will be doing something else. Those who are able to crack this exam by knowing the right strategy, okay, will clear this exam. Is that okay? So therefore, don't complicate your preparation. See, I have also learned that in the hard way. Is that okay? So through success, failure only, you realize the mistakes. Okay, so this exam doesn't require you to be intelligent, it requires you to be smart. Are you understanding the difference? Yes, it doesn't require you to be intelligent, it requires you to be street smart, smartness. You appear to, even in interview also, you appear to be what the interviewer wants. Is that okay? So that's what I mean by don't complicate your preparation, keep it simple. Don't think that this exam is very difficult, so therefore I need to bring out you know, something magical, nothing like that. Okay, you have to have the right strategy, you have to appear to be very smart. Even while writing, write with a lot of, you know, strong confidence. You know, you should be able to fool the examiner also, trick the examiner in giving you more marks. Okay, here answer writing may you trick the examiner in giving you marks. Even in the interview also, you trick the interviewer to give you more marks. Appear humble, appear poor, appear hardworking, appear sympathetic, all that. Once you clear, you know, people will start, you know, being all heroes and other things, right? Why corruption is there? If you are so humble and ethical, etc., the same officers who clear become corrupt. Why is it? Because they appeared to be all humble and this one in the interview. Anyways, it's all a narrative. So make sure that you address the demand of the exam. You address the demand of the exam. The exam demands you certain things, you address that. Is that okay? So this is what you should avoid. Is that okay, guys? Any doubts or any questions that you have before we start? Yes? So lot of strategies I will tell you as we go. It's not just about the subject. We also have to know the right strategy to crack the exam, especially anthropology, because I'll be discussing only that. But even with GS, etc., here and there, I will give you strategies from my experience, from my success, from my failures. Is that okay? So that should help you to avoid your mistakes. Is that okay? You will be at least saving 1 year because of me. Okay, whatever mistakes you would be doing, I will try to avoid those things. One major mistake is reading multiple textbooks. Oh my God, anthropology, optional subject. I have to be the best. I will bring 10 books and I will start reading. Is the first mistake that you will be doing. So I have told you, don't do that. Is that understood? Just aram se relax and attend the class. As we go, the 100th day you should peak. Is that okay? Not on the first day and as we go deteriorate. Is that understood? So that's an example. Right, making micro notes, for example, is another strategy. Like that, lot of strategies to help you clear and crack this exam. Answer writing and all, I will tell you after some time. Once you have built a basic content, I will start telling you about answer writing and other things. Is that okay? Any doubt, guys? No doubt, crystal clear? Yes, we'll move on. Okay, so any information, any notes, content, handouts, everything relating to anthropology class will be shared to you in the Telegram group. Is that okay? So if you have not joined the Telegram group or if you have not got the link, please ask the management or check your email, okay, and join the Telegram group. So this is this batch Telegram group. I will communicate everything that is required. about class also, and also material. See, for example, yesterday I shared this material, welcome document. Okay, so it contains details about the syllabus, how we'll be approaching the exam pattern, what materials you would want to refer to, etc. Everything is mentioned in that. All right, you can download it and you can read. So this is the chat, right? And then if you click on this, you will find the details of the group. In this you will find, I mean, I'm just telling because sometimes students still ask me, where can we find the materials? So if you go here, there is media, file and links. Yes, go to the files and all the files will be there which I share. Okay, and I will label it properly so that there will be no confusion. Okay, handout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that I will label it so that you can find it even afterwards. If it is gone missing or you downloaded and it got lost, you can still find it in the file section. That will always be there. Is that okay? There is a list of handouts what I will be giving you. It's there in the welcome document. As and when we do the class, I will be sharing the handouts. Okay, 1, 2, 3, I have labeled it and I have already given the index so that there will be no confusion. See, class will go on very systematically. Okay, you can see the handout. So this is the welcome document. Then handout 1 will be on previous year question, like that. So there are 28 handouts which I will be giving you. Workbooks that I will be giving you, 3 workbooks. Okay, 1 textbook I will be giving you. 1 textbook you will have to buy. So all these things I will tell you whenever required. Is that okay? So you can also keep notes, 1 notes for 1 section, like socio-cultural 1 text, 1 notes, for theorist 1, Indian 1, tribal 1, like that you can keep 1 separate notes. If you are writing in sheets, make a separate file. If you are using technology like tab or something to write, so separate folder for each topic. Is that okay? So keep it very nice, clean, crisp, systematic. So there will be no confusion. 1 file for 1 section or 1 notes for 1 section. Is that okay? So this is what you will be doing. So the strategy is, so you can look at it this way. So you will do it in 2 parts. The first phase of your preparation, what you are doing now, even at GS, anthropology, everything, phase 1 is learning. What we'll do in the class, learn, understand, get clarity with the concepts, all of that we have to do now. Okay, then make notes. Okay, if you have to read any material, this is applicable even for GS, any material, textbooks, etc. You'll read it, okay, and practice basic level. Okay, every day 1 question or every week 2, 3 questions, whatever, how much ever time you can dedicate. Okay, so this is what you will do in the first phase. This will go on for about 8 months. I am talking about GS as well as Anthro. This much minimum time is required. Is that understood? I mean, this is what is required. I mean, I can't help it. Okay, if you want to do it in 3 months and all of that, I don't know how it can be done, but you know, minimum 8 months is required for you to go through all the subjects, make notes or read the textbook, like even polity, for example, Indian polity and constitution. To understand that, attending the class, reading the notes or material or whatever, Lakshmikant textbook, anything that you do, okay, would at least take 1 month to about 2 months. So therefore, I am telling it generally takes about 8 months. If you are starting today, unfortunately, if you want to write 2025, I don't know, it will be a little bit challenging, but what I am saying is, if you are starting now, it will take minimum 8 months to 10 months for you to complete all the syllabus, anthropology as well as GS. Is that okay? So you have to make sure when you are doing that, you do it properly, you learn properly, understand the concepts, get clarity, no confusion. Okay, notes or material or textbook. For example, GS and all, you have ready-made textbook. You don't need to make any separate notes. Directly you can read the textbook and make micro notes. Correct? You don't have to sit and dictate or make notes and all of that. Is that okay? But anthropology, you don't have one fixed textbook, so probably you might need dictated notes and all of that. So that you will do in the first phase. Once you do that, once entire GS as well as anthropology class and understanding notes, everything is over, you go on revising, revision. So that is the second phase of your preparation, revision and practice, advanced level. That means you will start taking test series and sit properly for 3 hours or 2 hours. Prelims means 2 hours, mains means 3 hours you will be sitting and doing. Here you will be taking half length test or small tests, etc., or daily answer writing, something like that. But here you will have to sit for 3 hours and write full length tests and experience how it is to write for 3 hours. Advanced level plus some value additions, new facts, current affairs, etc. So this you will be doing before your actual prelims and mains. Okay, so this much time is required. So revision and all 2 months minimum is enough. So 8 months plus 2 months, so about 10 months time is required for you to give your best preparation, or 10 months plus 2 months, so 1 year. Is that okay? 1 year is minimum is required for giving your best attempt. Okay, but if you have any other way to reduce that, compress it, all of that, that's up to you. But if you take my experience, at least 1 year is required for you to be at your best, to give your best attempt and make sure you clear in the first attempt itself. Is that okay, guys? Fine. So if you ask me, this is the strategy. So in anthropology, now coming to anthropology, 4 to 5 months we'll finish this level. After that, this is what you have to do. After anthropology class, this is the second phase you have to do. In the first phase, we'll do it in that 100 classes. Learning, making notes, reading, and basic level answer writing, etc. You will have half length test and other things. Okay, 6 half length test and weekly answer writing. This is what we can do. Is that okay? More than anything, consistency is the key. Even if you are studying for 3 hours every day, make sure you are consistent with that. Okay, one day give 10 hours, after that 3 days, no studies. That doesn't work. Every day you have to give about, 2, 3, whatever hours that you are giving. Make sure you do that consistently, small, part by part you complete it. Okay, over a period of time you will complete the entire syllabus. So consistency is key. Another, simple and effective. Don't complicate your preparation. Again, I am telling you, even GS also, either your notes or your one textbook. No reading 10 textbook. Oh, polity, very important. Let me read 3 textbook and become expert. That will never happen. Stick to one notes or one textbook. Okay, keep it simple and effective. And time management. Okay, because you have limited time. Time is the most valuable resource. Okay, so make sure that you effectively utilize. Sometimes you don't have to know everything. Okay, you don't have to know everything, because obviously time is a limiting factor. Is that okay? So make sure that the most important topics you cover first. What is asked regularly you cover first. What is expected you cover first. Okay, so you have to prioritize. You can't know everything. You can't know all the subject. See, for example, I have cleared UPSC, I have given 6 times, and all the 6 times I have cleared prelims. Okay, I have written mains 6 times. Okay, and when I have given prelims, for example, you don't have to follow the same strategy, but I have never studied ancient history, medieval history, art and culture. I have never studied that, but yet I have always cleared prelims. Okay, because the time that I would have spent for those ancient, medieval and art and history, how much you need? Time. The same time I knew that I can't remember a lot of those things, so I never even bothered. So whatever time that I could use from that, I used it for revising some other subject and becoming better at it. What I lost, let's say 5 questions I lost from here, I gained 5 questions or 10 questions in another subject. You understood? So you know your strength and weakness. What you are good at, become better. What you are not good at, you can skip it. One subject at least you can skip. For example, in your prelims. Is that okay? Right? Just because class is going on, or you are paid for it, going and attending, or your friend is attending, going and attending, does not make sense, because you don't have time. So effectively use it, optimize your time. Is that okay? Instead of reading a new textbook, revise. So time management is very, even in anthropology, because you have certain times options where you can skip a particular topic. There also, you have not understood something, skip that particular topic. It's okay. We will be doing 100% in the class, but you can do about 95%. Matlab 5% topic you can leave. Something which you don't understand or it's difficult to remember, that 5% you can leave. And that is asked in the exam, you choose some other question. Is that understood? So like that. Okay, so prioritize and optimize the time. Okay, and very, very important at the end, before we start today's class, focus on your health. Is that okay? UPSC is not the end of it. Is that okay? You need to focus on your health. All of you are young now, starting fresh. Okay, mentally, physically, you are at your peak. When we do biological anthropology also, you will realize the age that you are in now, right now. Okay, you are all in your early 20s, mid 20s, I mean, like, 24, 25, 26 years. This is the peak of your life in terms of your health. You are matured biologically, mentally also, hopefully. Yes, you are matured. Yes, biologically your body has become the most productive. Is that okay? Even in terms of mentally also, you have learnt everything. Mentally you are mature. Wisdom is now, oozing out of you. Okay. Then you have got that freedom also now. You are a graduate, you are an adult. Very, very crucial phase of your life. Yes, with respect to studies, what you are going to put in is going to decide your career, no doubt. But also what you are going to do to your health is also going to decide how you are going to be in the rest of your life also. Is that okay? It's a very crucial phase. If you take too much of stress, physically as well as mentally, it's going to have a huge impact in the rest of your life. Are you understanding? See, everybody, your orientation, UPSC, everybody talks about put your hard work, everything, select a career, challenging career, your entire life is set, no doubt. But we tend to forget our health, mental as well as physical. What you are going to do to your health now in this 4 to 5 years is going to define how you are going to be in the rest of your life also. If you take unnecessary stress, physically you might develop hypertension, diabetes, or cholesterol, whatever, which is going to affect your entire life. Same way mental also, if you don't have peace, if you are not happy, if you are depressed, even if you clear the exam, what's the use? You will be a very unhealthy, unhappy soul working in the government, which is a disaster. Majority of the people who clear the exam are of that kind. That's why we see corruption, lack of empathy towards people. People are arrogant. Officers who clear are very arrogant. Correct? It was not like that before. Why? Because stress level was less. When they cleared the exam, they cleared very happily. And they were motivated to serve the society. But today the stress level is so much that even after they clear, they are unhappy. Correct? You might have seen. Okay, that is why when you go to an office many times today, they are so unresponsive, arrogant, because they are unhappy soul who have cleared the exam. They have cracked the exam, but they have failed in their life because they are unhappy. You see divorce, you see fights, they fight among themselves, officers itself, right? There is no coordination, there is corruption. All that happens because they are unhealthy mentally. So therefore focus this, you will take about 3-4 years of your most crucial life. So make sure you focus on your health also. Both physical, like physical means eat healthy. Okay, don't compromise. Especially now, it's an investment. See, don't look at it as an expenditure. Correct? Now, many of you might be living in PGs, rooms, this, and come from different parts of India and staying here. And you will feel that I am spending so much of money. I should compromise, eat bad food, whatever is the cheapest, you end up eating. But without your knowledge, you are affecting your body. Is that understood? Your cost, the cost of all of that will come later. Later you will have to pay for it, which is more expensive. So eating healthy, for example, is an investment. Don't you think it makes sense? No, it's very important. See, I'm telling you out of personal experience only, I'm telling you. All these things make you weaker as you go by. Even if you want to be most efficient, productive in your studies, you have to be healthy. Yes or no? Yes, so therefore, focus on that. Good food. Live in a good environment also. PG, if your PG auntie is shouting, leave it and go. If you are, the people that you surround also. Be with good people, positive. Okay, negative people, you run away from them. Mentally also, you have to remain calm, balance it. Keep in contact with your loved ones. Don't isolate yourselves. Is that, see, we see a lot of suicides and other things. The people don't clear exam, they commit suicide. Recently, some PSI somebody could not clear the exam, suicide. Is that okay? Why? Because they give up on their health. Is that okay? It's very challenging, I'm telling you, especially now, it's cold, it's winter, it's raining, getting up early in the morning and coming is very depressing. If you don't focus on your health, you have to enjoy the whole process, then only you will clear the exam. Is that understood? Unnecessarily suffering is not necessary. Okay, beg, borrow, whatever, stay healthy, stay in a comfortable environment. It is okay to spend a little bit amount of money on yourself. Is that understood? It's an investment. Tomorrow, once you become IAS officer, you pay them back. Borrow money and pay them back. Is that understood? Don't think it's a burden for my parents Parents are investing. See, you buy a property, for example. Why will you buy a property as an investment, capital investment? So that tomorrow you can build a complex and get rent out of it and sit happily. Right? Same way, invest in your health so that you will earn dividends from it by having a healthy living throughout your life. Is that understood? Please understand this, very, very important. Okay, usually we don't talk, or you also feel, hey, no, I am a very strong person. What is this? I will eat stone also and nothing will happen to me. All that, I have also seen that. You will become, UPSC will make you old 3 times more than what regular people undergo. By the time you reach 28, 29, 30, you will realize, oh my God, you're so weak. I remember that. I had to, undo all of that. It took a lot of time for me to do that also. I was into sports, so I was very active. I wouldn't climb steps in like 1 step at a time. 3 steps. I would jump from one, like that. That's how I used to be. But then sedentary lifestyle, stress, unnecessarily taking a lot of stress. It became very difficult. To walk also 1 floor, I'll be like, oh my God, it's too much. That's how I became. I mean, like, one day, once all this was over, I was like wondering, what did I achieve? Health is bad. And then also depression. Oh, you're not clearing, end of life, nothing is there in future. Oh my God, I'm a loser. All those things. I was a winner or topper throughout. And then UPSC crushed your entire soul. And then, see, I was lucky enough when I had a support system. Okay, my family, my parents, my wife, all, that support system was there where I could once again come back and stand in front of you and, eye to eye I can tell my failures also. That strength could come, and not everybody will have that, kind of support system. So you have to take care of yourself. Probably 3-4 years I might have wasted. That should not happen to you guys also. Whether you clear or not clear, be happy. Okay, happily don't clear, happily clear also, irrespective. Because see, UPSC is just a means to an end, or whatever, IAS, IPS, whatever, is a means to an end. You can create magic if you have the right mindset and the body. Is that okay? So, by 30, you should be the same, energy level, health level, etc. Make sure you maintain it. It's a very, very valuable resource. Nobody will give it to you. Is that okay? Please preserve that, protect it. Make sure you eat healthy, do workout like half an hour or something, go for a walk. Is that okay? Meditate. Have a routine and it will help you even in your studies. Is that okay, guys? Please focus on your health also. Right. Okay, so this is about what I wanted to tell before we start our class. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? We'll start with our first chapter. Okay, so give the heading introduction. Okay, so now you can start notes, first page, introduction. Right. So in the introduction chapter, if you see your syllabus 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3, we'll start with this: meaning, scope and development of anthropology. All right. Then you have relation with other discipline. We'll skip that for now. Then we have main branches. In that we'll start with socio-cultural anthropology. As I told you, we have biological anthropology, archaeological anthropology and linguistic anthropology. We'll start with the first one: meaning, scope, development of anthropology. Very simple. Okay, topic. What is anthropology? What does anthropology study? And the development. How did anthropology as a discipline originate, develop into the present day discipline? That is what we will be studying. So you can listen now first and then I will dictate the notes. Very simple. In the introduction orientation class also I told you, anthropology, okay, we can you can break down the word anthropology into anthropo and logy. Okay, anthropo means mankind, human. Logy is the study. So obviously anthropology is the study of man. It's a scientific study of mankind, a holistic study of man. So that's what is anthropology. We study everything about man, whether it is culture, whether it is society, whether it is their biology, whether it is past, whether it is present, or the change that occurs, right? The changes, the future, also we study. So a holistic study of mankind is called as anthropology. Okay, so there are several definitions. See, now you'll have to, I mean, as such, they will not ask. It's a very simple question, don't you think so? Okay, so if at all something relating to scope of anthropology is asked, your introduction will be about defining anthropology. You can define it like anthropology is the science of humankind, where we study everything about mankind. Or you can quote some anthropologists and their definition. We'll come to this later. Okay, so what do we do in anthropology? We study all aspects. Okay, there is nothing that anthropology cannot study. Okay, we study everything. You name it, anthropology can study it. Okay, people's behavior, why people act a particular way. Okay, their economic activities, their marriage, family, their kinship system, political organization, language, okay, changes that occurs in all of this, right? So we can study that. Biology, the genetic makeup of humans, why we are different, why am I different than you, how does disease affect me, how I adapt to a particular environment. I can eat pani puri and nothing will happen to me, but a foreigner comes and eats one pani puri and he is admitted to hospital. Why? Adaptation. How growth and development take place. What factors influence growth and development. All these things can be studied. anything. Is that okay? How people manage disease. See, for example, medical science studies the, for example, COVID may, medical science will see what is the causative organism, how do we treat them, what are the signs and symptoms. Anthropology will go beyond that to understand what cultural practices leads to the spread of these diseases. See, for example, Ebola. Have you heard of Ebola? Right? So, Ebola was spreading in Africa. Okay, Ebola was spreading in Africa. Medical science could not find the reason as to why in Africa they were so susceptible to Ebola and it is not so in other parts of the world. It was spreading very rapidly in Africa. Okay, so what was the reason behind that? So further studies using anthropology, forensic anthropologists, etc., medical anthropologists, they found out that Ebola was spreading in certain groups in Africa, certain tribes in Africa more compared to others. And when they further analyzed, they found that the death rituals practiced by these communities were responsible for the spread of Ebola. Ebola is a very highly communicable disease. Okay, spreads through touch of or through fluids, through any fluids of any person affected by it can lead to the spread of the Ebola. So they found that certain parts of Africa there are death rituals. So if a person dies, the priest, okay, would come and inspect the body, okay, to check whether the spirits have left the body or not. Is that okay? Right? So magic men, magicians, okay, shamans of that particular tribe would come and inspect. Hello, are you there? What happened? So they would come closely, inspect the body, okay, do all kinds of rituals, touch the body everywhere and check whether the soul has liberated. Correct? No, we also worship soul. In India also soul worship is there. We do so much pindadan, that, this, etc. Why do you, now you are laughing. Why do you do that, all those things? You have ancestral worship so that the ancestor soul doesn't come and haunt you in the night. Correct? No, you also do that. In Africa, they have the same ritual. They'll check before the body is, otherwise the soul is there, body is burnt or disposed of. The soul will come back, find no body and then they will start haunting you. So they wanted to make double sure whether the soul has left or not, and then they would dispose the body. And every time when the village elder, priest or somebody who went and inspected also got affected. Is that okay? So the simple way through which they controlled Ebola was use of anthropological knowledge, and they said wear a PPE kit and go and check the body. Yeah, all masks, this, everything. Go and they gave, so they could not stop it. If they stop it, there will be a resistance upon the people. Correct? No. If they tell you no, you can't do praying, you can't build temple, you can't build mosque, means there will obviously be resistance. If you tell them no, don't have a ritual, people will not, they will feel that no ancestor will come and haunt me. There will be resistance. So you have to find solutions for it. What is the solution? We can't stop it. So let's adapt. How did they do it? So knowledge of anthropology helped in control of Ebola. Is that understood? As simple as that. So anything and everything can be studied. So study all aspects of humankind at all levels of development in any and every part of the world, both past as well as present. So we study our past also. Whether it is culture, whether it is biology, we study our past. Why we were like that, what influenced us, etc. Is that okay? So the aim is to understand in anthropology, the aim is to understand what is universal. That means practiced by all society or present in all society. See, for example, okay, marriage is considered to be universal. That means all society has marriage. There is no society without marriage. It's a general understanding. Okay? So that is what is general. In biological anthropology also we will study. Whenever it is cold across the world, they will shiver. Is that so? It's a general phenomena. What is a general phenomena? Everybody goes through it. Indians also in cold, they will shiver. In Africa also when it is cold, they will shiver. In America also when it is cold, they will shiver. Is that understood? So that is what is universal. What is general? Where it is found in most societies. Where it is found in most societies, if not all. Is that okay? For example, the practice of cross cousin marriage is considered taboo in many societies, but in few societies it is preferred. So like that. So what is general? And then what is specific, which is very unique to a particular culture, which is not found in other societies or other people. Is that okay? Like for example, even in biology, for example, the Tibetans of high altitude, they have got bigger chest when compared to other society. Why? Because they live in high altitude, so they have to have a bigger chest to adapt to low oxygen. People in lowlands, people in Bangalore, people in lower land, they don't have big chest. So that is very specific, unique to that particular society. Did you understand this? So anthropology, ultimately the objective is to come up with what is general, what is universal, what is specific, to make a science of humankind. Is that okay? When we study humans, we want to have a science of mankind. Okay, by coming up with law and telling that yes, this is universal, this is general, and this is specific to a particular society, right? So this is the scope of anthropology. We'll be doing it a little bit more again. So anthropology, I hope you understood, right? But anthropology is a new name. Before they wouldn't call it as anthropology. The origin of anthropology, the term, before that they would use the word ethnology. So anthropology was actually called as ethnology. Even today in many universities abroad, okay, they still call it as ethnology. Ethno means folk or tribe or nation. Okay, logy means study. Okay, the study of people's folk or culture. That's how anthropology started. So it was initially called as ethnology. Okay, so ethnology is study of people's culture. It mainly studies culture of people. Anthropology is much more wider in scope. Now you are understanding, and ethnology is study of people's culture. Anthropology is not just study of culture, it's more than that. It studies archaeology, it studies biology, it's much more wider. Ethnology is study of culture, and that too from a comparative point of view. They study culture of one society and compare it with another society. That's how it started. Is that okay? So the term ethnology is the science of people, their culture and life history as a group. It deals with comparative and analytical study of culture. Okay, so it basically analyze and compare cultural practices, beliefs, social structure of society across different societies and try to identify patterns, similarities and differences. They try to understand the similarities and difference. You will understand all these over a period of time, but at least some basic, if you are able to relate, it's enough. They try to compare Indian culture, let's say, with European culture, and they try to find the similarities as well as difference in order to develop some kind of a science of culture. Is that okay? Why people behave a particular way? I'll tell you simple example. In a society, where women contributes more to the economy versus where men contribute more to the economy, influences the type of inheritance pattern. For example, where women contribute more, okay, we will find more matrilineal society. Matrilineal means where inheritance is through mother's line. Matri means female, line, lineal. Okay, where men contribute more, you find patrilineal. Patri means male, lineal means line, male blood line. Okay, so patrilineal means you inherit properties, names, titles from your father, and it is transmitted only by male members of the society. Whereas in a matrilineal society, you inherit it from mother's line and only females will transfer it to the next generation. So how did you get to know this? So they studied societies, different societies, and they compared. They compared it and then they came up with a law. Now what is the law I told you? If men contributes, it will be patrilineal. If women contribute, it will become. So it's a law which I have developed now based on comparative study. So I compared 100 societies. In 100 societies, 60 were patrilineal, 40 were matrilineal. And then I studied economy, polity, that, this, everything. And I found a pattern. What is that pattern? That in societies where men contributed more, generally it is pattern. Now I am using the word generally because there can be exceptions. It's not a universal law. Sometimes there will be universal law. For example, I studied 100 societies and I found that in none of the societies brothers and sisters get married. Out of the 100 societies that I studied, I found that none of the 100 societies brothers and sisters marry. There is prohibition in all the 100 societies for brothers and sisters to marry. Incest taboo. Okay, taboo to marry your brother or sister. All societies. So what is the rule? It is a universal rule. So incest taboo is an example of universal rule. So as anthropologists, what do? We find what is universal, what is general. Incest taboo as an example is universal. You say take any society. You take any society, brothers and sisters are not allowed to marry. We don't know how it became universal. There are theories. That's what we will study. So many anthropologists have come up with theories to explain why is it universal. What is the reason for it to be universal? Okay, so that's what anthropology does. Come up with science to explain human behavior. What is human behavior? Not to marry your brother or sister. So we have to come up with the science saying that why they don't get married. That which will be discussed in our class. There's a topic called as incest taboo. What is incest taboo? And what is the theories to explain incest taboo? Why it is universal? Is that understood? Same way, what are the different types of inheritance pattern? Matrilineal, patrilineal. And then we'll come up with theories to explain why it is so. You understood? So this is what anthropology does, or this is what ethnology does. And how did we come up with this? By, correct, no? You studied 100 societies, compared the 100 society with each other. That's why ethnology is called as comparative studies. To come up with what? To generate theories and provide an insight into human culture which can be applied across. So what is general? What is universal? Like for example, marriage is universal, is a theory. So there are explanation why it is universal. Is that okay? We'll come up with that. We'll study that also. So this is what ethnology does. Did you all understand? So this is the old name of anthropology. But today anthropology has diversified into other than studying culture. So therefore anthropology is preferred word. Is that okay? Right? Because it is much more holistic. Then there is another term, ethnography. Ethnography. Again, if you break it down, ethno, what does ethno mean? Culture, folk, culture, nation, people. Graphy means to write. Is that okay? Graphy means to write. Okay. So writing about culture of a particular group of people is called as ethnography. Ethnology is comparative study. Ethnography is study of one particular culture, and writing about it is called as ethnography. So that all these three terms are I have given together so that you will get clarity. Ethnography is a method, okay, of presenting the data, writing about it, etc. So ethnography is a research method used by anthropologists or ethnologists. So as an anthropologist, you go to a particular society, you study them and you write about them. It is called as ethnography. So it's a method where you collect data about a particular culture, and using that ethnography, if you compare, it becomes ethnology. Is that okay, guys? Yes. So it's a systematic study of people and culture, presentation of this data. So basically it is a research methodology used by anthropologists or ethnologists in order to study a particular culture and presenting that knowledge. So it can be presentation of that knowledge, or it can be also, the word can be used for the research method to collect data. Okay, ethnographers aim to provide holistic understanding of a particular culture. They will come and stay in a particular group and study. Like for example, in your classes, we will be studying different, like Malinowski studied Trobriand Islanders. Okay, W.H.R. Rivers studied the Thodas. Verrier Elwin studied the Gonds or Baigas, etc. Like that we will be studying. So they anthropologists go and go and live among a particular society and study them. That is called, and write about it. When they write about it, it's called as ethnography. Is that okay? So now see the difference. Anthropology is the broad study of humanity, humankind, everything. Correct? Now you understood anthropology studies everything, all aspects of humankind, whether it is society, whether it is culture, whether it is biology, everything is studied by them. Whereas ethnology is what? A comparative study of culture, theoretical study of culture within anthropology. Anthropology initially started as ethnology. As the subject diversified to include other things like archaeology, biological study, it was better to use anthropology than ethnology. It focused on comparing cultural practices, beliefs, social structure across different societies to identify patterns and principles, so that you develop what? Theories. Yes. Whereas ethnography is what? A research method used to study and describe a particular culture, right? It involves first-hand fieldwork, gathering of information of a specific culture. This is what is ethnography. Is that okay, guys? Right? So, just for your reference, there are several other scientific definition or theoretical definition given by anthropologists. For now, you don't have to by heart them. Okay, we will write it down, but you don't have to. You will decide whether you want to remember it later. But if they ask what is anthropology and the scope of anthropology, you can simply write this definition or this one. You don't have to by heart. See, now I was telling micro notes, right? In that universal, general and specific. And then the story you will write on your own. But these three words should be there in your answer. Sometimes you will forget. Universal, after that it will not come. You will not be able to remember. Is that okay? If your friend behind says, general, then you will write another one paragraph. Correct? But that word sometimes it will not come in the exam when required. After the exam, once you come, when you open your bag, you're like, oh my God, general, I forgot that word, it didn't come. Now that you have to highlight and repeatedly read, is what I am saying. That is your micro notes. Is that understood? Okay, so those three words is the key word that should be there. Is that understood? How will you remember? You can't create your own in this case. Once general is there, you write on your own. General means blah blah, you give examples, you write all that you will write, stories. But that word general, the word universal, the word specific, three words should be there and underlined in your answer. Is that okay? Something like that. Is that okay? Fine. So if you see the now other facts that like Tyler, Krober, all these names you will get familiar. Now these names might look new, but then they'll become your friends. Don't worry, you will remember all of them. Okay, Tyler in his book Anthropology, an Introduction to Study of Man and Civilization. A study of remains of people and physical feature, races, language, customs and practices of primitive people is called as anthropology, is what he says. Krober says it's a science of group of men and their behavior and production. Hershkovitz says anthropology may be defined as measurement of human being, okay, whether it is cultural measurements or biological. Jacobs and Stern says anthropology is a scientific study of physical, social and cultural development and behavior of human beings since their appearance on this earth. Okay, see, these are some definitions of anthropology. But you will realize yourself that all these are not so commonly asked, so I don't have to remember it. Okay, one definition is more than enough. Okay, but I will give you variety so that you can choose whichever you feel comfortable with. Is that okay? So we'll define what is anthropology. Okay, so definition, give the heading definition. The word anthropology is derived from the Greek word anthropos, meaning humankind, and logos, 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 meaning field of study, or science, Next line. Thus, etymologically, the etymological meaning, you can see on the board, thus the etymological meaning of anthropology is, in quotes, the science of humankind. Next line. Thus, anthropology is a social science. Which studies mankind in its entirety. in its entirety. Full stop. Anything about humans, anything about humans can be studied, from an anthropological perspective, from an anthropological perspective. Next paragraph. It studies all aspects, it studies all aspects of humankind in all places, comma, at all times, full stop. All aspect includes culture, comma, society and biology. That is, studies humankind in its in its totality, You can write what is there in the board in quotes. Next line, quotes. Anthropology is the study of all aspects of humankind at all levels of development in any and every part of the world, both past and present, in quotes. It aims to understand what is universal, general and specific. It aims to understand what is okay, aims to understand what is universal, what is general, what is specific. Continue to write what is specific to, next line, to the biological, comma, cultural and social aspect of humankind. Next, you can write some definitions. What we have written would be sufficient. You can add another one. You can write this first because this is much more better than the others, more comprehensive. You can write down separately. Next line, Jacobs and Stern, in quotes you can write, Anthropology is the scientific study of physical, social, cultural development and behavior of human beings since their appearance on this earth. Okay. If you want, you can write the others. Okay. One or two you can remember. Okay. Quickly you can write down the others. Okay. Done. Right. So give the heading ethnology. Till about the first quarter, till about the first quarter of 20th century, The term socio-cultural anthropology, the term socio-cultural anthropology was not popular. Rather, ethnology was used. Rather, ethnology was used to describe cultural study. To describe cultural study. Next line. Ethnology was derived from Greek word. Ethnology is derived from Greek word ethno, meaning folk, F-O-L-K, folk, or people, or nation. See, that's why you use ethnicity. Remember, ethnicity, ethnic violence, right? So, ethnic means folk or people or nation. Okay, nation means group of people who share a common culture. Is that okay? Nation. So, India is a state. Okay, India as a nation, meaning if everybody starts to believe in certain common values, then we become a nation. Okay, a state is a political entity. Yes, so a state is something which has a boundary, which has sovereignty. So you can have a state but not a nation. Okay, you can have a nation without a state. You can have nation state. You understand? India is a state. We have so much of diversity. We are not a nation. From an anthropology point of view, don't beat me up later. Okay, so India is not a nation from that point of view because we have so much of diversity, history, culture, so much difference is there. So that's why there is communal violence, ethnic violence, and secessional tendencies and things like that. Why? Because we are of a different nation. So India has been brought together as a state. We have a constitution, we are sovereign, we have a political unit, we are a political unit, we have boundary, sovereignty, etc. So therefore we are a state. We are very far from being a nation. Is that okay? So a nation is an emotional concept where we believe that we have a common culture and practice. So now nation, ethno, that's why it's called as ethnicity. We are an ethnic group. So how many ethnic groups are there in India? If you number more than hundreds of ethnic groups. So an ethnic group is a group of people who share a common culture. Yes, so study of that is ethnology. So you understand the word ethnicity, ethno, where does it come from? Ethno means people. Okay, so emotion that reflects this ethno is ethnicity, right? Ethnology is study of it. So anything that, so in anthropology or any science, you break down the word, you get the definition of it. Is that okay? So study of people, the nation, when we say nation, it's a culture. So therefore everything's here, science of people. Nation means their culture and their history. That's what makes us unique. Every ethnic group has their own history, right? As a group is what is how we define it. So sometimes knowing those concepts, you can cook up your own definitions. That's what your ultimate goal should be. You should be able to write on your own based on the basic understanding and keywords. Okay. So ethnology is ethno meaning folk or people or nation, and logy means again study or science. Logy means study or science. Anywhere, biology, everywhere when you use logy means the study or science. Next line, thus ethnology is the science of people. In quotes you can write, ethnology is the science of people, their culture, and life history, as a group. as a group. Next line. It compares and analyzes. It compares and analyzes the characteristics of different people and the relationships between them Sorry, what did you write? 1 minute. Okay, so where have you written that ethnology is the science of people, their culture and life history as a group? Bracket you can write Krober. Bracket you can write Krober. See, these you will be able to remember: science of people, their culture, life history as a group. You can write on your own, or you can write a similar sentence which sounds same, which means the same, correct? Okay, so this over here, when we say Krober, now that's a fact that will fetch that extra mark. You can't remember it now. Is that okay? You can't. Even if you put by heart it out, next week you will forget it. But you have to write that in the exam. So you have to make note of it and try to by heart it just before the exam, write Krober in the exam and forget it after the exam. So that's another example of what your micro notes should contain. You will not remember Krober, but you will remember ethnology. Sir said yes, ethno means something, people, ethnicity, logy means study. So you will define it. All that story you can write in different language or word sentence, but it will mean the same. Are you understanding what I am saying? It's not that difficult to construct those definitions, understanding. But what you can't remember is whether it is Krober, whether it is Tyler, whether it is Hershkovitz, whether it is somebody else. There will be confusion or you won't remember only. So that is the difference between somebody who gets like 100, 110 versus somebody who gets 130, 140. Just that small keyword or fact or data or the book name. And there will be hundreds of such names that we will be putting across in our notes. You can't remember 100 names, obviously. So then next step is to prioritize. That's what I said, prioritize, optimization. Okay, you will know what is more important, what is more frequently asked, what will be asked in the exam, what I should write in the exam. So that you have to write, remember more. Just because we are giving so many data doesn't mean you have to remember everything. See, for example, here I have given you 4 definitions with 4 names. Okay, I can say that I remember all 4 names, otherwise you will not pass. But the fact is you can't remember all of that. So I am telling you, remember at least 1, minimum, maximum also. That if you are able to write 1 at least, then you will be able to get real good marks. But what students do, I have given 4 definitions here. Students think that anthropology and UPSC is very competitive, I have to be the best. Okay, 4 is not enough. All of them will write 4 definition. I should be different, then only I will get better marks. So they will do more research, they will add another 3 more names and 3 more definitions. And in the exam, they will have 8 definitions which they can't remember either of it because there will be all confusion. But you guys will remember 1. Make an effort to remember 1, repeatedly read it. Instead of finding another 3 more, you would have put effort to by heart and repeatedly read only 1. So compared to the other person who will read the 10 definition versus you who knows 1 definition, and in the exam hall you will have scope to write only 1 because the space is limited. You will have to only write 1. Okay, but you have if you try to remember 8, you will not even remember 1. Instead, if you remember 1, write 1 you will get better marks. Are you able to understand the common, I mean, like, very important. Even though I say, even though you are nodding your head, but there is always a temptation for you to do more, because you feel that UPSC is something which is requires extraordinary. No, ordinary person who does, right things is what is required. Is that understood? See, my objective in class is to give you options. Whichever you feel comfortable, you can write. Not more also, 3, 4 I will give, not more than that also. But if I search any book, standard book, if I Google, if you go to university journals, this, I will get another 30. There are hundreds of anthropologists who have given their own definition. Don't you think so? I could have given 10 more definitions. Yes or no? You can find 10 more. You can go back home and Google and get 10 more. Yes. Now you have AI who will do it for you also. You understand? This is what you should avoid, is what I am trying to tell you. Reading new textbooks to find new definitions and complicate your, keeping it simple and efficient is what I told you. You get what I am saying? Yes, please remember this till the, till you clear the exam. Otherwise, you will unnecessarily work hard with no outcomes from that. Is that okay? Out of 3, 1 definition. Don't be greedy, just 1 you remember. Is that okay? I have given you, wherever possible, I will give you options. Same thing with respect to case studies also. For a particular topic, 4 or 5 case studies I will give you. You choose which one you want. And don't think that, and one of the biggest, or one of the question that many students ask is that everybody has the same case study, so how will my answer be different? Correct? No, you also must have thought the same thing. Everybody has the same case study or the same notes. Okay, how will my answer be different? Okay, once you start writing, you will realize it will never be the same. Is that okay? Everybody has their own way of writing, remembering, structuring, answering. Everything will be very unique. It's like, preparation of biryani. Right? I'll give you ingredients and I will give you the recipe for doing a biryani. Is there a chance that the biryani will taste the same? It's not possible, impossible. Is that okay? Everybody will have their own taste. Yes or no? Yes, your mother's recipe, you take it and you cook, it will be the same, is it? It will never be the same. Like that, here also I am giving you the ingredients. The way you cook it will be very different. So don't worry. Don't think that I have to read extra so that I will be different. Nothing. The same thing, if you write differently, it's more than enough. Okay? Right. So dealing with comparative and all of that. So you have written, it compares and analyzes the characteristic of different people and the relationship between them. Continue, full stop. It deals chiefly with comparative and analytical study. The goal of ethnology is to reconstruct human history, and formulate cultural variants. Next line. It aims to generate theories, last line you can write, and insight into human culture that can be applied across various contexts. Okay, next is ethnography. Give the heading ethnography. Okay, again, ethnography is derived from the Greek word ethno, derived from the Greek word ethno, meaning folk slash people slash nation. And graphy means to write. And graphy means to write. Next line. Ethnography is a research method. Ethnography is a research method used in anthropology or ethnology. Full stop. It is a systematic study of people and their culture. Systematic study of people and their culture. And the presentation of the empirical data and the presentation of empirical data on human societies and culture. Next line. Thus, ethnography has two meanings. Dash A as a knowledge and systematic meaning instead of systematic you can write system of meanings in the life of a cultural group B, next line B, it is a method of data collection. Okay, next line. Ethnographers aim to provide a holistic understanding of culture. Is that okay? So, if you look at this meaning over here, the knowledge and system of meaning in lives of culture group. So, basically ethnography studies one culture. After they do ethnography of several culture, when they do a comparative study, that time it becomes ethnology. So, it has two meanings here, ethnography. One, it's simply study of a culture. Then ethnography can also have another meaning, that it's a method through which we collect data. So, anthropologists go and do an ethnographic study, okay, through field work, through participation, observation, to interviews, okay, through that they collect that data. That process is also called as ethnography. Is that okay, guys? So it has two meanings to it. Okay, so write down this table. So now ethnology, what is that keyword you have to write in your answer? Comparative. It has to be there. Is that understood? Ethnology means comparative. Study of culture, people, way of life, nation, folk, blah, blah, blah. You write it, no problem. Whatever you want, you can write. People's behavior, people's way of life, okay, a nation's way of life, culture, that, this you can write. But that word has to be there, that it is a comparative study. That's the keyword. Now, anthropology, what's the keyword? Holistic. Everything. Whereas ethnology, ethnography is only culture. Right? So, like that. So, these are the keywords. You write on your own, but the keywords has to be there in your answer. And sometimes facts. So, now you understood what are the things that has to be remembered. Alva. So, that is what is should be your revision notes. Now, when you read your notes also, now you underline that, that's all. Just again, it should be used very limited, like you don't write everything or underline everything. Micro notes, some students I have seen, then they come and show it to me. They write the same thing but in very small letters. Okay, micro note doesn't mean microscopic writing of the same notes. Okay, it is just one word, no sentence. You should never use sentence in your revision notes. And I have seen students also highlight the entire textbook or notes or whatever. Again, defeats the purpose. One or two words, that's all. So in this, what will you highlight? Comparative. Okay, that's all. Holistic, you learn. General, specific, and universal. That much. Just the words, no sentence. All the sentence, story, all that you should learn to write on your own. That we will do. That at the end of 100 class, you will be able to do it on your own. So remove this. This is specific culture. Remove this specific. Okay, so specific culture, underline this. Okay, here it is cultures. Here it is comparing. Here it is broad study or holistic. Yes, does it make sense now? Specific culture, comparative cultures, holistic study. All aspect. See, only when you compare, you identify patterns and principles. In everything, when you want to understand a pattern, you do a comparative study, correct? No. Which optional is good? You compare and find a pattern, and then you decide what is good and what is bad. Like that. You have to do a, if you study only one, you will not understand, like that. right? Okay. Any doubt with the definition? Okay. So we'll move on to the next one, development of anthropology. Development, give the heading, development of anthropology as a discipline. See, now my micro notes will have this. So with this fact, okay, I know the story, but with this fact, I might not be able to remember these facts. But with this fact, now I should write about 2 to 3 pages of notes. If they ask, trace the history of the development of anthropology as a discipline. If they ask for 200 words, now with this much, I should, be able to write that much, or I should teach that in the class. So now this is for me, my micro note. Same way for you also, you need to have those things which you should have it in you or try to remember, and then you should be able to expand and write 2-3 pages from that. Okay, so now coming to the development. Okay, so a little bit about the history of anthropology is what we are going to discuss, or what is necessary for us to understand here. Okay, ancient time, medieval times and modern times. Actually, anthropology is a very young discipline. Okay, only in the 19th century we started to come up with this modern discipline of ethnology, which later got renamed as anthropology. Okay, so it was not a subject that was studied or taught before that. All right, it's a very young discipline, unlike history, philosophy, geography, etc., which has a history of its own. Even in ancient times, medieval times, universities were teaching them. But anthropology as a discipline, or ethnology as a discipline, is very young. Okay, somewhere in the late 18th century, early 19th century, it developed. But still, anyways, since we have to write a little bit about the history of anthropology, we can trace that some kind of study of humans, their culture, etc., was also done before. But the term anthropology was not used, or it was not there. All right. See, for example, the 5th century Greek philosopher Herodotus, who is considered as the father of history. Okay. So when he wrote about history, okay, of people from Greek and whichever land that was conquered by the Greeks, so he studied about them, wrote about their culture, wrote about their society, their way of life, and other things, like how a modern anthropologist also will write. So therefore, sometimes we kidnap the father of history and also consider him as father of anthropology. Okay, so sometimes Herodotus also can be considered as father of anthropology. Okay, because in his writing he has written about people's way of life, culture, societies that the Greeks occupied. Is that okay? So similarly, in ancient times, others also, other Greek scholars, etc., have written about people's way of life. So writing about people's way of life, culture is not new, is what I am trying to emphasize here. Similarly, even in medieval times, the Islamic scholars from Persia, they also wrote about people. They also traveled, and when they came across new culture and societies, they wrote about them, like how modern anthropologists write. Okay, for example, some data or facts you will write, like Abu Rayyan Biruni, okay, of Persia, wrote about people, okay, of Asia, India, etc., and their cultural practices, etc., like how modern anthropologists write. Similarly, you have other historians like Ibn Khaldun also writing about people's way of life. You also have Venetian traveler Marco Polo, who traveled across the world, and when he came across different societies, wrote about their cultural practices, etc. So even in ancient medieval times, we have several anthropologists, scholars who wrote anthropological work. But modern anthropology or modern ethnology began, okay, because of two events that happened in the world. One was when Darwin gave the theory of biological evolution by what he called it as evolution by natural selection, okay, plus colonization. So, modern anthropology originated because of two events. What was those events? One is when Darwin gave his theory of biological evolution in his book, The Origin of Species, when he explained that modern species or complex species evolved from simple organism. Okay, so Darwin said that, or Darwin gave evolution of species, of organism. So he said that species evolved from simple organism to a more complex organism. Is that okay? So what we see today, the modern complex organisms are derived or evolved from simpler organisms, okay, through natural selection and survival of fittest. What these are we will discuss later when we do biological evolution. Okay, by natural selection, nature selects the best, and as nature selects the best, it goes on evolving, leading to a complex being. Okay, so survival of the fittest and natural selection through which organisms evolved from simple to complex. So those who are interested, so this revolutionized, the human thinking and has influenced almost all disciplines, including cultural studies. So Darwin influenced philosophy, Darwin influenced every other discipline, including cultural studies. So those who are interested in cultural studies, in studying culture and people's way of life, etc., adopted the same principle of Darwin in order to study culture. So they said culture also evolved from simple to complex. Culture also evolved from simple to complex by the principle of natural selection only. Matlab those cultural practices which were better adapted got selected, and those cultural practices which had no utility got eliminated. What happened to typewriters? How many of you use typewriters? Anybody use typewriters today also? Okay, what happened to it? It got eliminated. Yes, and more complex laptops with printers, etc., have now come into existence. But how did it originate? It originated from simple typewriter. For example, yes, your mobile phone, 5G technology, how did it evolve? 5G is more complex than your, analog phone which you used to use before. Yes, so how did that evolve? So those phones which you used to use, landlines, which were simple, yes, to a more complex technology. I mean, I'm just talking about technology. There were times when they used stone tools. From stone tools, it became metal tools. From metal, it became complex industrial machine tools, and then more technology. Now, next is future is artificial intelligence. Correct. No, you don't have to write your exam. Your AI will go and your AI avatar will go and write the exam. Is that okay? Maybe you never know what future is, but it all evolved from simple being. Like now they have created that robot, Elon Musk's robot, which will do all the cooking and other. Maybe in the future, not now, but it all starts now. Small robot. There I read one article. Okay, one robot, I think somewhere, I don't know where, I think Japan or China somewhere, has gone and kidnapped other robots. Okay, has gone to its showroom and it has gone and programmed the other robots, and it has kidnapped the other robots. And I don't know whether it is real news or fake news, but anyways, seems to be interesting. That's the future. Okay, the revolution of robots. So those who were interested in study of culture used Darwin's principle and started to study them comparatively. They studied simple society and complex societies to understand how societies have evolved from simple to complex. Okay, so the first theory in anthropology is also evolutionary theories. Okay, first theory to explain cultural change is evolution. Okay, so societies have evolved from simple Stone Age to a complex being culture. Is that okay? So like that, almost all our theory, I mean, studies like marriage, kinship, everything, political system. So political system also from simple to complex. What we have today is a complex political system. You have the constitution, you have legislature, executive, judiciary, police, law and order, bureaucracy. But when earlier time, simple hunting and gathering society, there was no such complex system. So how, anthropologists started was, they studied simple societies and their political system and compared it with whom? Complex societies having complex political system. And they said, yes, we also were like this. They studied the hunters and gatherers living in the forest, small groups, and they studied their political system. And then they compared it with their European system, democracy and elections and legislature and judiciary, and they compared. They said that first society was like this, hunters and gatherers with simple technology and simple political system, and then they evolved to become complex. So that was the first theory that they came up with. You take anything, marriage, kinship, economy also. Okay, first they practiced hunting and gathering. Then came pastoral, animal domestication. Then they came plant domestication, that is horticulture. Then agriculture. Okay, then industry. So that's the evolution of economic institution. How did they come up with this? By comparing one society with another. So that's why it was called as ethnology, comparative study. What was the inspiration for all of that? Darwin's theory. The same principle which was used in biology was adopted by anthropologists or cultural studies, and they started to study culture from a comparative and evolutionary point of view. So when they started to do that, more and more societies were studied and the discipline started to grow. And in many universities, they started to teach anthropology, and that gave rise to the modern anthropology. There was yet another factor that influenced the development of anthropology, and that was colonialism. Okay, so during the same time, around 18th century and 19th century, okay, you had Europeans going and exploring new territories. Yes, because of industrial revolution, they went in search of new raw materials. They went in, spread their god, okay, to get gold and all of that. Okay, they started to explore new territories. Navigation improved. They went in expedition and they reached new territories. And when these European travelers, merchants, conquerors, missionary workers, when they came across new societies, alien societies which they had never seen before, they were intrigued by it, they were surprised by it, and they started to study them. They started to write about them. So some of the early anthropological works were done by whom? By the European travelers, merchants, administrators, colonizers. They collected information out of curiosity. Out of curiosity, they collected these information and wrote letters to their friends sitting in Europe. That Macha, I did this, I went there, I saw this. So those who were sitting in Europe used that material and started to develop theories. So the first theories which were developed in anthropology were done by indirect studies. The data was collected by merchants, travelers, etc., who wrote about it and sent that to, see earlier note other, see there was no Facebook and other things. What they did was this only. They wrote love letters to their friends and other things. And these men who were sitting in Europe in clubs, elite clubs, got these information and they used to read it out. The expedition of my friends, they would read it out. So it created an environment where everybody started to get interested in study of these alien cultures. They did this, they have this, there is head hunting, there is cannibalism, okay, they do this kind of worship, okay, they have animism, animatism, they have this kind of marriage. So they were so interested in this, they started to document all these things, do comparative study and started to develop theories. Plus they had to justify colonialism. Okay, so what they said was these people are primitive, they are in the early stage of cultural development and we are advanced people, we are at the higher level of development. It is our duty to ensure that they also grow and become civilized. Is that okay? So in their writings they wrote that these are savages, these are barbaric people, they are uncivilized people. It is the duty of Europeans to civilize them. Okay, they justified colonialism. You might have also heard in history, white man's burden. Why? Because they believed they are superior. They believed they are superior and the others are inferior. So by converting them, by colonizing them, they could also bring about development of these people. So they justified racism, they justified colonialism, imperialism. Which one? Anthropology. So that's how anthropology began. What was the two main reason or two main influence? Darwin's principle and colonialism. So colonialism gave them lot of information. Yes, in the beginning it was very wrong in terms of its value. Anthropology began considering Europeans as superior and others as inferior and all of that. But then it started to develop anthropology as a discipline. In many universities, they started to teach anthropology. Okay, many did not agree with the evolutionary theory, so they started to develop alternative theories, okay, which matured the anthropology as a discipline. And it also spread and started to study other things other than culture. They started to study archaeology, they started to study language, they started to study biology. Okay, so through all of that, it started to diversify, giving rise to newer branches. Yes, biological anthropology, physical anthropology, linguistic anthropology, archaeological anthropology, medical anthropology, like that it started to proliferate. And many universities, journals, etc. started to come up. Okay, societies were formed and they started to publish journals. So a lot of research started to happen after 20th century. Even in developing nations like India, anthropology emerged. Okay, and therefore today we have several international organizations handling anthropology. Even in Indian universities, several universities have anthropological studies that are done. Okay, so therefore as a discipline today we see a lot of application. Anthropologists are used in forensics, they are used in healthcare, they are used in archaeology and all of that. So it has matured and become a very holistic science helping mankind as a whole. Is that okay? So that's how very briefly we can say that it all started. Is that okay? So this is the development of anthropology as a discipline. Quickly we'll write it down. Development of anthropology. Anthropology traces its roots. Anthropology traces its roots to ancient Greek historical ancient Greek historical and philosophical writing about human nature and organization of human society. Next line, anthropologists generally regard Herodotus, you can see the spelling, Herodotus, a Greek historian of 5th century BC, as the first thinker to write, widely on concepts that would later become central to anthropology. In his book, quotes history, Herodotus describes the culture of various people, of the Persian Empire, which the Greeks had conquered. Next line, thus he has been known as both the father of history and anthropology. Next line. Similarly, Roman historians Roman historian Tacitus, Tacitus, Tacitus wrote about Celtic people, Celtic, Celtic people, bracket, Indo-European people, close the bracket, sorry, Celtic people, okay, Indo-European and German people. Okay, next give the subheading Middle Ages. Middle Ages. All right, we'll end the class with this. Tomorrow I'll continue from here, Middle Ages and modern, what we have discussed. Okay, so later we'll continue with what is the scope of anthropology, and start with our first chapter, that is marriage. Okay, so this is how the class will be. All right, If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay, otherwise I'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.